Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. I'm Maggie Ostara, and I'm a human design expert and a sovereignty mentor, and I really like to share with you a human design perspective on what's happening for us astrologically. Astrology is one of the four ancient wisdom traditions that make up the human design system, or the human design system draws upon. And the astrology is just so powerful these days that I'd love to be able to put these together and give you a little bit of a different point of view that I often find to be very illuminating and inspiring as well. So today we're going to talk about the full moon. That's happening in Libra, coming up in April 1st or 2nd, depending on where you are in the world. It's April 1st for me here on the Pacific coast of the United States, but you can see where it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And full moons are always really potent opportunities for us to take a look at what's being lit up that we haven't paid attention to, or that has actively been hidden. And it's a kind of crescendo point in the lunar cycle. Let's just remember, though, that full moons, the impact of them go on for the rest of the lunation. And when ones are really big, as this one really is for a variety of reasons, which I'll share with you, the impact continues for a while. So even though we look at it at this particular day and this particular time, it's also an influence that will continue with us. So they're well worth diving into and getting to know more about. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in. Let's remember that a full moon is when we have the sun and the moon are on the opposite sides of either the astrological wheel or the human design mandala. They're considered opposite each other in astrology, and oppositions are generally considered to be, they're not as hard as squares, but they are kind of opposing, right? And so part of the opportunity is for us to look at how do we get these energies to dance together. In human design, they actually really work well together because they are part of where the sun and the earth are in the human design system. So I will dive in and give you all of the particulars of that. And I do want to just say here at the beginning, even if you are not so familiar with human design, or you're not really an astrologer, a deep dive astrologer, I really aim to provide the interpretation of this so that you can take that and work with it without really having to go deep into the particulars of these two systems. Okay, let's take a look at what's happening with this full moon in Libra. And as I said, we always have the sun and the moon opposite each other on the astrological wheel or the human design mandala at a full moon. And in this case, the sun is in Aries. We're in Aries season. We'll be here for a few more weeks. And then Libra is on the opposite side of the wheel. And that's where the moon is. So we always have those opposite each other at a full moon. And the sun is important during this time as well, because if we remember, the sun is what's lighting up the moon. So if we think about it this way, so the moon is in Libra and it's in the gate 48, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the sun is shining on it, right? The sun in Aries, which is in the gate 21, is shining on that moon. And so the sun is also very important for us to look at. But first, let's take a look at where the moon is, and in the human design system, where the earth is. So they are falling in the gate 48 in the human design system, which is part of collective circuitry. It's actually part of the logic circuit. It's on the spleen center, which is over here on the right side of the body. And it's known as depth, or the well, in traditional human design, or wisdom in quantum human design. Do you think we could use some wisdom in our world today? Yeah. I think that this is a really auspicious alignment for us to be having right now, given how much kind of insanity is unleashed right now on the planet. And we see a lot of adolescent behavior, unfortunately, among our world leaders who are really kind of acting like teenagers. They're not acting like really mature beings who have the highest good for all as their primary objective, which to me is really kind of the adult perspective. And so we need more wisdom right now. We need more wisdom. And wisdom is not the same as information, and it's not the same as knowledge. And it's something that is only really acquired with experience, really with experience. And when we are willing to take our experience and digest what has happened for us, we take the information that we've been exposed to, the knowledge that we've developed by really studying and integrating our perspective as far as the information goes. And then it's how we do that over time, right? Again and again and again is how we get to wisdom. And I want to just say here that this is really a call, in my view, for the women to show up, the wise women, the women who I like to say are in their sovereign season, which is what happens really in that time from between about age 45 and about age 65, where there are far more women now on the planet who are vital, who are healthy, who know that they have a lot more to give. It used to be our life expectancy was much shorter. It was much closer to about 55, 60 years of age. And so we didn't have such a big period where we were still strong and vital and still had a lot of vitality and purpose to give into the world. And so I want to just put out here a special call to my women friends who are in this sovereign season to say that your wisdom is extremely important and really needed at this time. I'm sure you've been hearing, and we can feel it, that the energy of the divine feminine is rising, and it has been rising. And it is a counterpoint and a balance to this kind of adolescent masculine behavior, which women also are participating in. It's not just people in male bodies, but it is a masculine adolescent energy, which is the low expression of Mars, right? Who is the ruler of Aries. And so we're getting a lot of that kind of adolescent, violent, coercive energy that's being activated and expressed. But then it's also potentially balanced by this energy of wisdom that we have that's coming from this moon in Libra. And then let's remember, in the human design system, when we have a full moon, the moon is also in the same gate where the earth is. And the earth is what we need to ground ourselves in, right? Wherever that earth is, it's saying, okay, ground yourself in this energy. So we need to ground ourselves in this feeling of wisdom. And so the invitation for you is to really explore, what are you wise about? What wisdom have you developed over the course of your life, which you could then share with other people and out into the world? What have you come to realize through the course of your life while you have been engaging and learning and making mistakes and like sorting out what that was about, and then being, oh, I got the gift from this mistake. Now I know not to do this. Oh, but this is even better. What are the things that you have learned over the course of your life? And as I said, this is really an energy for the divine feminine, because let's remember, Libra is ruled by Venus. It's the divine feminine. So this is a divine feminine energy that we want to be bringing up more into the world. Now, of course, men can participate in this too. It's not like the men or people who identify with different genders or with no gender, because the divine feminine energy is available to all of us, no matter what your gender expression is, no matter what your body is, no matter what your DNA is, right? You have this available to you. And in this moment, it's like, what is the depth, right, that you have developed through your life experience? What is the depth, right, the well that you can draw from that is your experience from this lifetime, and from that you have inherited from your ancestors, and that you grew with you over the course of the lifetimes as you've incarnated over and over again, and that you brought in with you? What is that? Right? I think very often the things that are the most valuable in some ways are things that we take for granted at this point, because we've been kind of working with them for so long that they are second nature to us, and we don't realize that other people don't really get this. I know for me, for example, embodiment is something that I have been active actively exploring and practicing and learning about for most of my life, definitely my whole adult life. This is an area of wisdom which I am bringing out more and more into the world. Because in my view, in order for us to grow spiritually, in order for us to evolve to the potential that is actually available to us, we have to fully embody. If we're dissociated and not in our bodies, right, kind of observing the world from the outside, which is really fostered by being on screens all the time and by a lot of left brain analytical mental activity, right? We tend to not really be in our bodies. But for us to really evolve and ascend into our next level of potentiality, we need to come into our bodies and develop our felt sense, develop our heart energy. Our heart energy is deep inside of our bodies. It's where our soul fire is. And our inner being, or I like to think of it as the light being within you, expresses to you often through the body. And if you're up here in the head too much, you're too mentally focused, or you're dissociated because of trauma, because of difficulties, right? If either one of those are going on for you, it's kind of ungrounding for you, right? So this is a wonderful opportunity during this time to really be grounding yourself in that sense of wisdom. Come fully into your body and ground yourself in that. And this is what the earth is always asking us to do, is to come into the body, feel our relationship with the earth. And in this case, it has to do with wisdom. And then, as I said earlier, the sun is actually very important when we have a full moon as well, because the sun is what's shining on the moon and making it bright like that, right? It's like a searchlight with big full moons, right? My whole backyard is full of light. It's amazing, right? But what is that but reflected sunlight? So the sun during this moon is in the gate 21. Gate 21 is tribal energy. It's on the will center. It is part of what's known as the money line in traditional human design. It is connected to the gate 45, which is the sovereign gate. And in traditional human design, it's known as control because it can be kind of intense and controlling that way. This is actually where my sun is, so I know it really well. It's been named self-regulation or self-management in quantum human design. I personally call it stewardship, and let me explain why. If we think of this in a tribal context, and here we've got the sovereign, right? We could either think of as the figurehead or as the kind of the leader of the tribal circuit. And then we have this 21, which is connected. And the 21 is about resources. It's about managing resources. It's about making sure, in my view, everyone has what they need, which isn't necessarily to say that everybody gets the same thing, because everybody doesn't need the same thing, right? And if we think of it in a tribal context, right, where we might have the king or the queen as the sovereign, and then the steward is the one that really supports the manor, who is the one who is in charge of, well, where do all the resources go? What are the resources that are coming in? And then how do they get distributed? And in quantum human design, the 45 has even been renamed distribution. But it's really that the 21 that decides, where do those resources go? How do they get distributed? And so this is a beautiful energy for us as we are stepping into a larger role of stewardship for our beautiful planet. To me, this is a cornerstone of New Earth, is that we mature into the perspective of looking at what does the earth need, what do all of the elementals need, what do all of the different species on our planet need, as well as what do human beings need. We've been very human focused for a long time, and the health of the planet has really diminished as a result, because we've been kind of barreling through saying we're the dominant predator, we're the dominant species, and we can do whatever we want, which is related to that adolescent kind of masculine energy that I was talking about before. It's a distorted, not fully cooked, if you will, energy, because it's all out for itself. It's all about just self-interest. So this is what we're evolving out of, more into a stewardship and a compassionate stewardship that says we are all in this together, right? This is what unity consciousness is all about. This is what the yoga traditions have been teaching us forever, is that we are all part of one great being, if you will, in many different forms, expressing in many different ways. And when we start to realize we're all in this together, then it helps us to evolve out of that sense of self-interest, because self-interest comes from separation. Self-interest comes from believing that we live in a violent and a coercive world, which the Age of Empire kind of taught us was the case, and that then we have to take care of ourselves, right? But this is a lot of what, like I said, is what harmed our planet and has led us to harm each other. It's what fuels wars. It's what fuels violence. It fuels all of these kind of distorted, hierarchical, coercive ways that we have been living inside of. And I know that right now, so many of us are digesting more and more layers of recognizing just how much control has been exerted on us as humans, and how much we have been programmed into this kind of violent attitude and this kind of coercive attitude, which then also creates protectionism, right? That separation. And so there's a lot that we're digesting around this right now. I want to just suggest that not only do we have the support here of the sun, but Salacia, who is not officially a dwarf planet, is as a Kuiper Belt object, but is known as a dwarf planet. And Salacia is a beautiful energy, has this higher love consciousness, has this ability to help us to weather the storms, whether the storms are inside us or whether the storms are outside of us. Help us to grow our inner strength, our inner metal, so that we can have some ballast when things are really rocky around us, right? When the storm is raging. And so Salacia is here conjunct the sun in that gate 21, who is saying, how are we going to steward ourselves first, and then our families and our communities, and ultimately our world? We're going to do that with this kind of higher consciousness of love. And then the sun is giving all this extra energy to that expression as well. So you're invited here to take a look at what is, if when you're grounded in your wisdom, right? When you can come into your own heart, when you can step into this divine feminine energy, what are you going to participate in terms of the stewardship that you want to provide? This can be very simple. Like we have one of the women in our Sovereign Sisterhood has been really talking about taking over her garden, right? She moved to the place where she is not that long ago, like within the last couple of years. And the garden that she had been polluted with Roundup and different kinds of herbicides, pesticides, and so on. And she's been really stewarding that garden and helping to reduce the toxicity, bring in new soil, right? That is an example of stewardship. So if you have a garden, that is something that you're stewarding. I've been stewarding my garden as well. And so that is something that we often do in springtime, right? Is steward our gardens. But what else might you be stewarding? Are you stewarding a community in any particular way? Are you stewarding a bigger piece of land? Are you looking at how some green spaces can be put aside, for example, so that they don't just get built up? Are you stewarding a watershed somehow, participating in going and picking up garbage and or doing that on a beach? That's another way that you can help steward. There's so many different ways that you can do this. You can be stewarding water by looking at how you can have rain catchment, for example, or you can have a gray water system. There are just so many different ways that we can start to take another step in terms of really growing our relationship with the living world and recognizing that we have a responsibility to help it to thrive. Because of course, we're a part of the living world. And when the outer living world isn't thriving, neither are we. And then the final piece I want to offer here is just a view into all of the different energies that are in Aries, right? So we've got the sun, right, which we were just talking about, and Salacia, who is conjunct to the sun. But then we also have Neptune and Saturn, who are still conjunct with each other. Then we have Chiron and Erisina, who are Eris or Erisina, who are conjunct with each other. So we've got these different planetary bodies as heavenly bodies where they're doubled up with each other, right? It's interesting. And so that means that they are extra potent. And right now they're lighting up that gate 21, which is where Salacia and the moon are. The 17, which is where Saturn is, and then Neptune, who's in the gate 25, but the 17 and the 25 are right next to each other, but they're still conjunct in terms of astrology. And then we've got Chiron and Eris, who are conjunct in the gate 42. And the gate 42 is the gate of finishing things. Now, Chiron and Eris are in Aries for a long time. Okay, they have really long, I actually don't know how long Eris's orbit is, but it's extremely long. And Chiron's is about 50 years, because we know that your Chiron recurrent comes right around the age 50. So these have long orbits. So they're going to be next to each other for a while in Aries. This is not a, just this year or just this month or anything. They're going to be there together for a while. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer, right? And so when you have your Chiron return, happens around age 50, or when Chiron is highlighted in your in your chart, right, or in your mandala, then this is a place for you to be looking at where do you have wounding, where do you have trauma that hasn't been healed yet. So Chiron is in this gate 42, which is like, what haven't you finished? Right? What have you been wounded around and not been able to finish? Or what have you finished prematurely before it was really ready? You were like, I got to just get this done. Right? What have you done that around? But then you realized, oh no, that wasn't good. And then it created a trauma for you. What is your energy around finishing things? How can you finish something even in the next week that has been hanging around for you, and for whatever reason you haven't done it, right? And then we also have Eris here, and let's remember Eris is the sister of Mars, and is kind of known in traditional astrology as a troublemaker. She's called the goddess of chaos and conflict, right? But that's because she was basically like, I will not be treated poorly. She was left out of a party. So she showed up anyway, and she threw a golden apple into all of the goddesses were there. And she said, okay, whoever is the most beautiful will get this golden apple. Well, you can imagine the women who were pitted against each other around their beauty, right? And supposedly this was the beginning of the Trojan War. Okay. So she's known as a troublemaker, but she also has this deeper meaning of everyone needs to be treated fairly, right? Everyone's voice needs to be heard. No one should be left out of the party, right? She's just a powerful advocate for equality, which works really well with Libra also, even though she's in Aries, right? Across the other side. And of course, this is a Libra full moon, because Libra is all about balance. Libra is all about justice. Libra is all about equality. Libra is all about all of the voices being heard. So we've got a really interesting dynamic that's going back and forth here between Eris and Aries. And then we've got this moon that is happening in Libra. But then Eris is also in that gate 42, along with Chiron. And so she's asking you, what have you not finished, right? Or what do you need to finish around making sure that everybody's voice is heard? Making sure that there is a level playing ground. We don't have a lot of hierarchies that are still saying some people are in and some people are out. Some people get the resources, some people don't, right? Some people get to have incredible wealth. Other people can't even make sure that their kids have enough food. I mean, this is really large on our world stage right now, that distinction that's going on. And so this is our opportunity to say, that's not the world we want to live in anymore, and we are not supporting that. And then, of course, we still have Neptune and Saturn here, who have been dancing with each other for over a year now, right? They had their great conjunction right at the 0 degrees of Aries in February 20th. And they, Saturn has moved on just a little bit. So in the human design system, he's in the next gate, still not right next to Neptune. And so there's this constant of kind of dissolving and creating and dissolving that Neptune and Saturn are doing with each other. And so there's a lot of different energies that are happening here. And underlying all of that is the energy of Aries, which is very much a sovereign energy. It is an I am statement. It's an initiating energy. It is the beginning of the astrological year. And it's the beginning of a whole new era that we have with all of these different heavenly bodies here. And with that Neptune and Saturn conjunction that happened and is continuing to move forward for the next few weeks at any rate. And just remember, this is all happening also in the year of the fire horse. And so the energy is going to get faster and faster and faster. And this is an opportunity for you to be dialing into what your deepest in your heart of heart desire is, and to look at the ways that you have continued to agree to operate inside of old paradigms that are not in your highest good and that you don't really believe in, that you might still be attached to because they're familiar, because we do that. Right? And there are aspects of our nervous system, especially if you're somebody who's had a lot of trauma, especially when you were young, like you might have that desire to just hold on to what's familiar, but it's time to let go, right? And get on the fire horse, right? I did a video, Ride the Fire Horse. I'll put the link for that down below too, about the opportunity that's really here for us during this year of the fire horse. And so take advantage of the energy that is here to help you to step into the timeline of possibility, of love, of compassion, of generosity, of respect, of maturity, like I said, not this adolescent behavior that we're seeing really writ large, right? Not that kind of immature way of being, but really stepping into that divine feminine energy. And I am speaking again to my women who are stepping into your sovereign season and exhorting you to have a bigger voice, to let the light of this full moon shine on you, shine on your soul fire, and ignite your inner being even more so that you can truly let go of the trappings of the old that have been tying you to, a world that's falling away, and have the courage to step forward, the courage to take on a bigger role, whatever that is for you. You've got the support of Kiron to heal whatever trauma there has been for you. You've got the support of Salacia, who is saying, work with me with this higher consciousness of divine love, and you'll be able to weather any storm. You've got Neptune. It has this beautiful divine love energy that is stimulating your intuition even more and dissolving the ways that your left brain analytical mind have suppressed your intuition. You've got Saturn here, who is saying, what are the new forms that you want to bring in that are going to really support you as you're moving forward into your new life, right? You have got the Sun, who says, shine your light, baby, shine your light, right? Step into the truth of your being and give yourself permission, allow yourself, right? Allow yourself to be who you came here to be. Because you didn't come here to be somebody who's unhappy and who's working and slaving away at things that you don't love because you think that's what you need to do to survive. You didn't come here to be in abusive relationships or to agree to allow yourself to be suppressed so that you could be safe. You came here to be the core essence of who you are and allow that to shine brighter and brighter and brighter out of your being as you step into the fullness of your being. And this full moon is here to support you to do that. Just remember to ground yourself in your own wisdom Ground yourself in ancient wisdom, right? Which is also coming more and more to the fore these days. Ground yourself in a deep state of knowing, right? Of inner knowing as you do that. And all will truly be well. I'm in the midst of creating a new experience for us, which I'll be offering around in mid-April. That is really going to help us to step into our sovereignty on another level, step into the truth of our being, step into this powerful Aries energy, and help us to take advantage of it. So stay tuned for more about that. All right, my friends, that's my Human Design Transit report for today. Please do take advantage because there is so much here for you that can support you on your journey of awakening and stepping into the truth of who you are. Many, many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.